Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Today I have McKenzie MacDuffie, a great friend and artist, fellow artist, who has taught me a lot. I took her workshop last month, and it was about painting, and you know, we learned a lot in that whole thing. And I'm gonna really not get into the workshop, but there was a live that happened this week, and it really struck a chord in me about being unblocked and using creativity in our lives to find our way through the ups and downs of life. So if we are all set, I will add Mackenzie to the show. So welcome, Mackenzie. Thank you for coming today.
Yeah, I am so glad to be here. It's a really nice day. I'm going to say that right now. And it's always a great day when you get to spend some time with a friend. So we have
Absolutely.
that. Uh, and thank you, by the way. I end up doing so many. Uh, I'm sorry. Wow.
I love that horn. That's
My
amazing.
throat was good right up until I actually started talking.
Cheers. I will second that. And everyone out there, please take a moment to catch your breath and have a sip whenever you need it in life. So,
Most certainly. Well, like I say just about every day, get a cuppa.
right? Absolutely. Or
Uh,
two, you say.
Well,
Sometimes you
yeah,
say if
actually,
you
sometimes
deserve
there's
it.
an extra,
Right.
and a lot of people deserve an extra. It doesn't matter what the drink is, whether or not you're getting a cup of water after a long workout, or you just need that coffee first thing in the morning. In this case, I am actually drinking chai out of this,
Nice work.
but it's the most convenient drinking vessel I have.
Except you can't set it down. So,
Exactly, that's why it's convenient. Remind
get it
yourself and
done.
hydrate yourself.
Just get it done in one shot, like a true Viking.
Hydration is it's very important,
It
even
is.
if
It
it's
is.
dehydrating hydration. But this is, just tea, so we're good.
It is important, but not as important as art and creativity and getting back to our why and who we are internally, and when we're doing things in business and personally, being a lot of people hate the word authentic, so we can say original or true or the honest person. And so tell us a little bit about your journey in this. And I know you hate buzzwords. And
I'm
so,
actually going to jump right on that word authentic because I think the reason it's so grating when people say it, it puts you off because it's usually said from a place of inauthenticity. Uh, and people are saying, be authentic, be real, be you, and there, there's an undertone there. And that undertone is be you as long as the you you're being is both acceptable and profitable.
mm,
And I personally think that's why it's just not it's not an impact. You should be authentic, you should be your true self, your real self. And when it comes to creativity, that's a spot, a moment where we can be 100% us. you know I When I was on talking about unblocking your creativity at the river, one of the things that I stressed early on was stepping away from everything and taking a moment of silence. And I know that you had commented on that in regards to
yeah.
that, um, but that disconnection from all those other sounds, voices, expectations, that's a huge one. Expectations
Mm,
is something that can help us get back to here. We should be here. Live in your head, live in your heart, and not not in your anxiety, not in your anxiousness, not in our worries, and not in our fears. And when it comes to art and creativity, the only way for it to be authentic sometimes, and I'm going to say sometimes because there's exceptions, but the best way for it to be authentic is for us to be kind of worried while we're making it.
I can relate.
Is this going to be viewed positively? Is this going to be viewed negatively? Are people going to take it in? Are people going to badmouth me? And and that last one it can keep many creatives from just making anything. That's just that hump that a lot of people never entirely get over. And maybe they'll have very fulfilling careers, and maybe they'll produce a lot of art or writing, but it's always going to be through clenched teeth. They're never going to open their mouths. They're never going to speak about their experiences, their feelings, or sometimes give us some really bad hot takes. And so we really need to hear those bad hot takes. Even if we don't agree with it, we need to be able to hear it, because then you see who's on the other side.
Definitely. I invited you here today because of how much I could relate to the feeling of being blocked or frustrated. But I don't want to lose the momentum. So we will get back to what does it feel like to feel blocked, getting blocked, and how do you get over that. But what I want to go back to is, can you replace the word authentic with a better phrase that's more authentic?
That's amazingly fun. It's hard not to imagine that you might come off as slightly pretentious when you say this, but it's not going to remove the truth of it. It's live in your heart.
Why is that pretentious? I know you, so I don't feel that. But why would someone feel that?
There's always, so I speak in a lot of generalities here, but there's that heart on your sleeve kind of, be a nice person, be loving, be giving kind of self-serving attitude in our culture. It's one thing that's really easy to be fooled by. So telling people to live in their heart, it can come across as kind of, look at you. I'm better than you, right? No, I'm not. So that's where that kind of pretentious statement could be perceived. And I oftentimes overthink what I say, because as soon as I am going to say it, I know it has other ramifications. It can be interpreted other ways. But we should live in our heart. We should allow ourselves that space to be open and honest, real and vulnerable. And vulnerability is such a tricky thing in life. If you're vulnerable with the wrong people,
get your ass handed to you.
Yes. So vulnerability is like, oh my goodness, why should I be vulnerable? Well, we should be vulnerable in what we do. Not necessarily how we live every day. You keep yourself safe, but if all you're doing is keeping yourself safe, then you're not safe. You're not living. You're putting yourself in a position where you've encircled yourself. You just put yourself in a little cage. Okay, I'm safe. Great. I'm also never vulnerable, and I'm never open, and I'm never connecting.
Yeah.
And that's a hard balance. Leave the door open.
I still believe in that there could be a world where we don't have to worry about that. I really, that's, a dream, but I believe that
Most certainly so.
it's possible. I just met with the Wanapum tribe here locally today about
Oh,
some
yeah?
project, and they're not combative. They've never signed any treaty.
Mm-hmm.
They're like live in your heart. I mean, I wish you could visit the museum here. It is very much about staying outside of your head and being in your heart center and being a part of what's in front of you and behind you. I mean, it's just beautiful.
That does sound
Um,
beautiful.
and it was just a wonderful reminder to, yeah, stay original and not really be concerned about what anyone is thinking about what I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
today, right now, tomorrow. And when I go all into those scenarios and I live in my heart, opportunity comes. It's a secondary thing, you know. But opportunities, whether they are in business or relationship or whatever, they come when you create that space. And what I see is a world that doesn't have space for other ideas or other humans, and they replace what could be space with what we're talking about today, being blocked and not creative and just sitting for hours on the internet or watching television, which isn't inspiring, or it's not getting outside of themselves, right? And they're
Oh, yes.
repeating this daily, daily, daily. And to be honest, like that was my pattern for 20 years. I don't do that any longer at all, because of how it's not good for me. But everyone has their way. But what I'm
Yes.
saying is, even in that, is I have to create space for those type of people. I can't be saying they're awful, they're dumb, and that's the difficulty, is not getting upset or, um, you know, at the forefront of living heart centered and wanting the vulnerability and being bitten or hurt, or it is a challenge. Yeah, but I do believe it's coming.
It's so one of the kind of weird traps of the mind is presuming any one of us know how someone else should live. And we can all get into that space. What's right for you and what's right for me, that's what's right for each of us. And if there's someone right now who's watching this, either now or in the future, and what's right for them is sitting there and watching these shows, maybe one after another, and scrolling through that, all right, that's actually kind of a beautiful thing, that in this world we have space for all of those people. But regardless of what is right for you, I would always encourage each and every one of us to step outside that, um, and to definitely breach our own walls.
Yeah.
If all you have is what's right for you, you might never know if you don't actually have everything that's right for you. It's a big world,
I
and it's a
love that.
beautiful world.
I'm adding that below you right now. Let's breach our own walls. The idea, that I could possibly know what's good for the person outside of me is so ridiculous. But again, I lived that for a very long time.
Yes.
So
And
I have no judgment, because that I was the asshole that I think is an asshole now. That's me. Okay. I have 3 children, And I've had to learn at each level to figure out how to stop parenting and allow them to be a human being, not my child. And we've dealt with all the stuff. I mean, all the stuff, you know. Um, I won't even get into it because of I want to respect their privacy, and
Most
they're
certainly.
talking about things that are hard to talk about in public. So just know that we're a battle hardened crew. Um, Sprinkles were ridiculous, but I've had to learn to watch and step back, allow space, and shut my damn mouth. I mean, I'm always problem solving. I just, oh, well, we'll fix this. Let's do this. Let's do
Yeah.
this. And I'm good at that. I've made my living doing that. But I think that's actually unhealthy because what I've learned in problem solving is I'm always looking for the negative. It's like when I used to carry a handgun all the time and, extra ammo and knives. I was ridiculous. And when I left the house, I was postured and prepared for violence. And I wasn't doing it in thinking I was going out and going to take things down. It was like I got to protect things around me for some reason, you know. And so breaching my own
Hmm.
wall was allowing that to get gone, take it out of my life, because that focus, I realized as soon as I put it on and left the house, there was a physical, internal, and external muscular difference in my body.
Yes.
You could people could tell me like, why do you walk like so militant or whatever? And I'm learning to loosen up, But that was just full of false beliefs and false identities and false a very linear view. I was only looking this way. And when I was able to step back and I realized that, oh, breaching that wall was actually super tiny. I could actually almost just walk around it. And I did. I let all that stuff go in a much more gentle way because I'm the guy that kicks it down and gets it done and then, we're over it. But this time for me, I had to do the opposite. I had to go slow, soft, and and I'm still in process. I'm still getting over that wall.
I'm just because what you were saying right now, it triggered something in my brain that I'm just going to talk about for 2 seconds. And it's a
Yeah,
similar
please share.
idea. So I have about 60 pounds of armor sitting behind me. I have, well,
Yeah.
you can actually, there's my helmet. I have my chainmail, I have my chest plate, I have all, and it's all for a sport. But here's what's funny, because people see me, if people see me in the armor, or if people saw me, it's been a few years now since I've been to a tournament of any sort. But if people saw me actually in a tournament list fighting, or any of the other fighters, they're going to see a violent sport.
Right.
Here's two grown adults hitting each other with swords and wearing armor, and there's shields, and there's clanging and noise. And do people get hurt during the sport? Yes. I mean, how can you not? It's a full contact sport. Armored combat is a full contact sport. But this is what's actually kind of funny about it. See, I loved swords and armor all my life. And
Me too.
what actually came and really turned me around, there was a period now years ago where I was in my worst place, where I was angry and aggressive, and I didn't have this calm, this happiness. And I did things that were very self-destructive,
Yeah.
between excessive drinking and just excessive use of things, which there's nowhere it's legal here in the US, and things that would actually hurt me. And I spent time hurting myself.
Yeah.
And what was really unbelievable was the moment when I actually got in armor properly and one of the first times, and I got out there and I started engaging in this sport where the thing that I was supposed to do was to keep people from hurting me. And in a really weird way, I was also learning how to keep myself from hurting me.
Absolutely.
I found an escape. One escape. There was many different things that played a factor, but this one thing was enormous. Learning the skills necessary to defend oneself, to protect yourself without engaging in the actions which directly you're responsible for hurting yourself. And it's just such a strange concept that like a full contact, very violent sport also was a very healing thing. Taking something which should be like, oh, this is, but no, it turned my life around. Now it's not the same for everyone else. We can come across the exact same things and have completely different outcomes. But recognizing that the way we are and the way we're acting and the results that we're getting because of it, that can flip your mind. The very moment you recognize the results for what they are. And you going out, and of course I'm not speaking for your experience, I'm just speaking in relation to that. But you going out, sidearm, rigid, hard, I'm sure there came a moment where you're recognizing what the result was for you. And
the result was me in bed for 2.5 years with migraines and losing the vision in my left eye. So,
well,
yeah, bullshit, man. I can't. I was like, I was a dead man walking, and now I am not that person at all. Somehow, I don't even know. I don't even know how.
This is actually funny because I have no vision in my right eye.
Oh, no way.
Oh.
I've gotten all the vision back in my left eye. I used to wear an eye patch, and had these like crazy red glasses, and I couldn't even go outside. Couldn't see color. And so what happened to me when I got my eyesight back was instantly I was, in love with seeing the sky, seeing clouds, staring at the trees. And then it was like, bam, COVID started. It was 2020. And life just went to a halt. And it was just, everyone was miserable. But for the one time in my life, I had silence and no one was asking for anything. And I spent every day walking in the woods with either with my wife or by myself. It was right behind my house, or I would just be staring at the sky, videoing it for days. People here think I'm nuts because I run around the golf course at night when it's sundown with a 10-foot pole and my camera on the end doing all this kind of shit. Because I just, I'm in love with life, and I never was, I never was. And so art has brought me full circle and has given me back not just creative expression, because it's partly that, but it's definitely exciting when you find inspiration.
I love that.
On the flip side, it's bullshit when you feel blocked.
Oh yeah.
And I have some brain issues and some mental health stuff, and I get brain fog like nobody's business. It can last days, and I have a hard time thinking, and I definitely am blocked creatively in that time. I still will pick up a guitar, but I'm just playing the same old stuff. It's just sort of, a grind. But what I've noticed is if I sort of breach the wall and push myself over, feeling like shit, and picking up one of these things, and just whatever, banging some keys, making some music, it just all calms things down internally, and I have a little more fun. I don't know if I get the brain fog gone, but I get these little glimpses of forgetting that I had it. I'll get 2 or 3 hours in the studio, and I'll be drawing, I'll be making a video, I'll be creating music, whatever it is. And you know, it's that in itself helps me get unblocked. But feeling blocked to me is brain fog, or just being like I don't know what to do next. So what is blocked? What is being stuck to you?
All right. So this is huge. And by the way, I love that, the brain fog, because that's there sometimes. Like, look at all this. You have this giant. You can't even describe it either. Sometimes it's just this thing, and it's pressure, and it's loss of sight. And sometimes, for me at least, being blocked is I just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I know it seems like it's not a block, but the just not wanting to do it, that is a block.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, I love this thing. It brings me happiness. And I can't even put a pencil down. I can't pick up a paintbrush. I can't turn on my camera. I can't start typing. As it is, I mean, I have a lot of different arts. I've been making movies for at this point over 10 years. I've been painting for about 20 or more. I've been writing for, well, actually, technically the first book I wrote I was 12. And I never published it, but I actually ended up taking a lot of the ideas and then I used them later on in other writing. But I have 13 publications, and one of the ways that I deal with the fact that sometimes I just don't want to do anything, or I just can't think of anything, or just doing something, it's like, this just feels so draining, exhausting. It's just do a different thing. I take pictures, make a video, schedule it in, because then if you don't do it, well, you've just broken a promise to yourself, haven't you?
Okay.
And
Dorothy Auger was just telling a good friend of ours, sort of in a nice, loving reprimand, to schedule it in, put it in, or it disappears.
yes. So my morning stream was a pretty natural extension of what was my daily activity. I went down to the river every morning.
Mm-hmm.
I walked, I sat, I enjoyed the sound of nature. And at some point doing that, I realized, a little more than a year ago now, I want to share this. I want to share this with other people. And then slowly it just became, I'm going to share this every day. And I scheduled it. So, yes, are there times I miss streams? Of course. I was actually sick a while ago, so I wasn't streaming for a whole week. But every day, 7:30 a.m., I'm down at the river. I'm going to turn on that camera. I'm going to go live. I'm going to talk about something I care about. And it's that last part I'm going to grab, because scheduling it, yes, that's going to really force you. I am supposed to be doing this now. Do I want to break a promise to myself? Do I want to break my own flow, my own built-in, these are the things that I do and I want to do? Once you get going, sometimes that'll get it going. But that's really the last thing I said in that whole is the important part. If it's something you love, even if you really don't feel like doing it, even if it's just gritting your teeth and nails on the chalkboard and why, like a child being dragged through a store by their parents, And then you start doing it, and then as you continue, all of a sudden, oh my God, I remember why I love this. I remember why this feels so good. I remember why this relieves my body, why it quiets my mind, why it makes the music sound better and the sky look more beautiful and the room is more inviting and all of these other things that just come in. Yes, I don't have your musical repertoire. I make music on occasion, sometimes for my own films, but like I like to sing. I do that in private now.
Nice.
But it's something you like to do,
Yeah.
and why would you deprive yourself of that? Why would you deprive yourself of your own happiness? And that's
Yeah.
one of the things that happens when you get blocked up, when it's stress, when it's a chore to do what you want to do, when you start putting the paint on the canvas and you just sit there and like, what is that? That, like, oh my God, just that. Those blocks oftentimes are us depriving ourselves of what we want that's going to come through. People are really good at depriving themselves of things. We're really good at depriving ourselves of sleep. Just keep scrolling online, right? Watch another show on Netflix. Oh my goodness, I just watched an entire season. What time is it? It's 2 a.m.? I got work in the morning. People are really good at depriving themselves. I want to work out. I want to have an exercise routine. I want to be in shape. But I also really want like 12 Krispy Kremes.
Yeah, it makes sense. I call that addict math. When you figure out why you don't need to go to the gym.
Yeah.
What's the square root of Netflix times donuts?
and that what we're doing is we're depriving ourselves of something, and we're so good at it. And one thing that we're depriving ourselves of is our own joy, because we do not prioritize our own joy.
True.
Even people who love to do certain things, like I just want to go to the beach, lay in the sun for like 5 hours, and then come back looking like a roast chicken. Part of their mind at some point during that, maybe that's what brings them joy, laying on the beach, and that's fine. But there's a lot of people who are just going to be like, I'm just going to lay around. I'm going to put myself on my couch. I'm not going to get up. I'm going to turn on the streaming service. I'm going to shuffle through, and you're just medium happy.
Right.
Medium happy. You're not quite content. You're not quite joyous. You're not quite fulfilled, but you're just fulfilled enough. Just enough, bare minimum. And I think that's a frickin' travesty.
Well, I think the bare minimum is actually not even anything if you look back. It doesn't add up
No.
because if you're just waiting for 2 weeks a year for something that looks like sitting around again, just somewhere else warmer or better, that's not really living.
Yeah.
And then I kind of hope none of my neighbors are listening to any of my live streams. I've given out my card to them, but I love them dearly. But I'm now in this sort of Golden Girls retirement community feeling in the middle of Washington. It's farm town all around.
Great,
I mean, I love the Golden Girls. It's the show's a lot more racist and terrible than I ever thought it was since I went back and watched it. But
that's why we have to rewatch these things.
I have watched it. I'm like, wow.
Just a quick side thought. As awful as Archie Bunker is, he is also honest about it and makes the most progression during that series of any of the characters.
Wow.
Just quick. So, I mean, he's not even polite about it. Archie Bunker as a character, what is that? All in the Family. You know, again, that earlier time period, Golden Girls, it was a little after that. But you go back to like All in the Family. You want to talk about a racist, homophobic, just terrible human being. But we loved it. And then if you look at it from a kind of modern perspective, you also realize that Archie Bunker made incredible progress in his personal character arc over the entire course of that show, to the point where they had him kiss Sammy Davis Jr. Or Sammy Davis Jr. kissed him. So both a homosexual and a black man, both of which he does not like, that he allowed in his home. Wow. And then he gets kissed by him.
I never knew that. That's crazy.
It's wild. It's wild.
Yeah.
And how these things couldn't be on TV anymore, just because the characters are so absolutely loathsome. But there's definitely a place for them.
Inappropriate, right? It's a nice glimpse of where culture was. I can't wait to look back on where we are now and say even now isn't even close. That even now is going to be like us watching the Golden Girls from 20 years ago. Hopefully, in 40 years, we look back and we say, McKenzie, yep, that's right. She and I were talking about this, and look at us. We watched this unfold, and it's crazy. People are living their own thing and having space for each other. Holy cow! There's no war, and there's enough for everybody. That's amazing.
Oh, see, that would be awesome. Can we have just like stop the war? There's enough for everybody. I won't go up on a soapbox, but do you know for every...
You love soapboxes. Come on.
Oh,
hit it.
Okay.
Hit it.
So, people want to talk about world hunger. This is a big thing. There's enough. Is there enough for everybody? Why isn't there enough for everybody? For every 3 pounds of meat produced in the U.S., just the U.S., for every 3 pounds of meat produced, we're going to throw 1 pound away before it's ever sold. It's going to get to the store. Statistically speaking, it's going to be thrown out. It's going to expire before it's bought. Why is there so much meat at the store? I'll get back to that in a second. But why is there so much meat in the store? If we're just throwing out a third of it. Now, this actually equates to somewhere, and I don't have my notes in front of me, but I started writing a paper about this. So this equates to somewhere around 48 million pounds of meat a year.
And what is that doing to other systems, not just in trash, but in the weight moved just by diesel? Because think of how much weight that is in it's just on and on and on.
And if you think about 48 million pounds of food being thrown away, or if you think about it on the living scale, that would be like you take 3 cows out of the pasture, you take 3 of them out, and then you immediately just push one into the dirt. Right.
Because why bother? That's sort of what we're doing anyways. Why bother?
It is. And it's awful. And somewhere, and again, I wish I had my notes in front of me. Tens of thousands of children in the United States are suffering from inadequate amounts of food. And we're a first world nation, right? We should not be able to.
We?
It's kind of a rhetorical question. Like, are we?
Until everyone has drinking water, I would say no.
I will agree to that. And here in the United States, very wealthy country, we have children who are starving to death.
Yeah.
Soapbox that it might be. It's an important one. And let's be fair. If we're going to throw away a whole cow for every 3 cows that we're going to put into the food market, let's give it to people.
So I'll tell you really quickly. we were sort of talking about mindset change, and
Mm,
and it was exactly what you're asking for here is I just recently have been doing vegetarian. I'm not eating any meat or
wonderful.
fish. That's not if it's from a fish farm, I won't eat that. And for me, doing my culture research, and I'm learning my language every day, my First Nations language, and I'm meeting with elders, and I'm starting to get a larger global perspective, and I'm starting to see what the ideas of colonialized push do, and that's what the meat market is. It's just about money, and we're told that we have to have it all the time, and I mean we could see it ramp up since you and I were little,
Oh, yes.
and now it's like and I felt like that too. Like when I was working out all the time, like, oh yeah, I gotta have chicken every day, and I would eat all this bacon and everything. But what I'm now understanding and wanting to participate in is where my feet are. I'm affecting 7 generations. And if I don't have to participate in something, I'm not going to. Does that mean I'll never eat it? Probably not, because I'm not good at doing anything perfectly.
Of
But
course.
what it does mean is I'm just living more consciously, and people around me were patient. My wife's been vegetarian and vegan sort of in and out, and is always like, why can't you just try this? I have brain issues and all these other things, and she's like, it could really help you. And I just, for some reason, that couldn't hit me. And then I would watch the documentary and see all the suffering animals, and but keep in mind, you did not know this person. This is me carrying a gun. I'm rigid. I'm building
Hmm.
multi-million-dollar houses, and I'm controlling, and I'm perfectionistic. I'm an asshole, and I'm eating meat like whatever. I don't care. And not because I was an asshole, but I was an asshole,
It's
comma,
it's a symptom of being an asshole.
eating meat.
All right.
So anyway, my wife is sort of like, why couldn't you hear me? And Stace, I appreciate your patience and not, punching me in frustration. But here I am now, and understanding that it doesn't matter my reason I got there. It's like if you want to go on a soapbox and talk about the waste side of it, or the diesel it takes to get it and produce it, or the car, I don't care. All of those things matter, and I want every person to talk about it in their way, because if it doesn't hit me, it'll hit someone else. So for me, it was about 86 or so percent of the world's, waste carbon footprint was coming from meat production. And I was like, oh, yeah, that is an easy thing for me to step back. And so if I step back and it's smaller or zero, and several other people do that, and then again, several other people do that, and several, eventually
Yeah.
there will be a change we'll watch, and that hopefully can go back. I'm a little less patient. And so if you want to speak directly and boldly, I mean, this is the place, like this is the
Of course.
platform, because it's necessary, and it's part of, again, it's part of our creativity, I think, because the more creative I'm allowing, the more sensitive I've become to my environment, because my environment inspires this. Whether it's hot
Hmm.
or cold, good or bad, that's what's giving me life and inspiring me, And so the environment is very important to me. And again, as I'm learning my, more native culture, more principles, and realizing that those have been life giving to me, and that my culture is a culture of artists, and foragers. We'd walk. My tribe is a foraging tribe, and we get a lot of salmon. And I just love the idea of just walking around getting berries, and just living that way. It's romantic. Uh,
I
I hope to
I
be
can't
there.
argue. It sounds amazing. Um,
It does, doesn't it? Like Winnie the Pooh, just ba ba ba.
I'm gonna I'm going to topic jump twice really quick.
Let's hear it.
Once because of culture. Fun fact, the one of the signature dishes of my homeland, because my family comes from Scotland, haggis, can't legally buy it in the U.S. It's actually, you can get a U.S. version, but you can't actually get real haggis because U.S. FDA rules can't import it. Same thing with most traditional cheeses. So, so the only time I've ever actually been able to eat the food that would be related to my culture is when I've been overseas.
Wow.
I can't get it here. Ridiculous. I don't understand.
And haggis is just it's fish that's been cured or something.
So
Salt.
haggis is sheep,
Oh,
and it's
sheep
pretty much all the parts of the sheep.
in a sausage.
In a Yeah, more or less
Okay, a loaf.
in the stomach of the sheep,
I see.
as opposed to the intestines. It's the stomach, but
Okay.
because it actually uses all of the various meats and organ meats of the animal, you can't actually legally import it into the U.S. Because we have rules that you're not supposed to do that. Where apparently it's perfectly fine for the bulk of the rest of the world to do that. Apparently in the U.S. we're like, no.
So do you think that by throwing those parts away, it drives our economy to eat more meat, and maybe that was a control idea, a FDA control idea?
It's a slightly worse kind of control, because some of those FDA rules stem from rules that were originally made to try to keep combinations of South American peoples, Asian peoples, and certain Western U.S. indigenous populations from being able to actually sell their food. It comes from the late 1800s. They were originally before the FDA just rules, and then as you moved into the 1900s, and then eventually into up until the 1970s, with things related to the Geary Act, which was specifically aimed at Asian Americans and more or less removing their rights as people in the U.S., we introduced a bunch of laws to be able to keep them from spreading too far,
Right.
or bringing in their own stuff.
Squashing culture.
Yeah.
All that is.
So it's squashing other cultures, and then it also hits certain Northern European cultures as well.
Interesting. Wow, we have a cool government. Yay.
Yeah. They managed to target 2 groups of people and then actually hit dozens more with a bunch of racially charged food laws.
Wow. And that's, a lot of people don't understand that some of that stuff, I don't know if it's still going. I mean, obviously if you can't import haggis, but like
Oh yeah, the rules are still there.
There's all kinds of things.
We just say, "Oh, it's about hygiene." No, it's not. No, it's not.
Not like
That's
there's a bunch
lie.
of Scots falling dead off haggis.
Yeah. And of course, it still targets all those other groups. So you still have all those other groups, indigenous people from South America, indigenous people from the West Coast in the U.S., people who from Eastern and Central Asia coming over here who are just like, well, guess what? We still don't really like you. We just don't want to say it outright. So we're just going to keep a whole bunch of archaic, ridiculous rules in place to keep your culture, your people, and anything that you could bring here out.
So how do we change that?
That's a really hard question.
I mean, how do you and me change that? Because that's all we got right here is you and me.
When it comes right down to it, the best way is cutting out everything above.
And what does that mean? You
were talking about, if the things you do can affect 7 generations, right?
Yeah.
Which means we can decide what practices we do or do not want to engage in. one of the great ways of populations, at least in the US, of maintaining their cultures, their heritage, their traditions, and whatnot. A wonderful way to deal with that is to engage in those things without involving businesses, without involving the government, taking that out of the equation. Uh, if there are people who are in your community, in your area, who do things in a traditional manner, who do things maybe not out of a restaurant or out of a butcher or something, who maybe just do things in a basic traditional way, in a community way, in their own home, in their backyard, engage in those things, support those things. And the same thing goes for our arts and our practices and so many other things. We can divorce ourselves from government inclusion simply by supporting the people in our communities. True. And I think that it's never the easiest way. The easiest path forward is oftentimes not the right path. And the difficult path, yeah, it might be the right one to take, but it's intimidating, and it's not going to change how important it is. It doesn't change how important it is.
Definitely. How about art? I've heard in 2 meetings this week, because we were talking about global issues, or changing ideas, not in this regard, but just other concepts, and oh my god, I'm lost my train of thought. I can't remember what I was going to ask you. That happens. That's my brain.
It does.
Every now and then. Oh, since my brain froze, I'll tell you that McKenzie has a workshop coming up. Why don't you give us a quick advertisement? Tell us about, what is happening.
All right.
I really enjoyed the last one that you had. And so, yeah, what is this week's workshop and when? Tell us how we can find out more.
All right. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to see if I can drop this in the chat while I do it. I might be able to.
You can sometimes share a screen if you have any video or any slides you'd like to show as well.
You'd be amazed. Like, sometimes I am completely and totally capable of using... oh, that's not the right one. Yeah, right now it's not a time where I'm able to use technology.
Like my brain, right? So the workshop, though, is this Saturday.
Yes. It's actually next Saturday.
Oh,
so
great.
It's May 21st. May 21st from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. Eastern time. And actually, you have my website there. Mm-hmm. You can actually visit my website, and there is a page that you can visit, Art Workshop. Click on it. Go sign up. But before I get on that, what I'll say is, when it comes to the art of feeling and abstract expression art workshop, I have a number of goals, but a singular mission, and that's actually spreading the concept of abstract expression. And I'm going to first say abstract expression is not expressionism. It's different forms of art. A lot of people get confused with that. When it comes to expression is getting in touch with our inner self, our inner feelings, voice, and finding a way to produce in a real shape or color or lines the rawness of what is internally trapped within us. We have more emotions and sensations and experiences in our life than we have words to describe. People can say, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm happy, but can they say succinctly and quickly, I have a warmth under my skin as I stare and I look at my child on their birthday and they're smiling and they're full of joy to be surrounded by their friends and family while they play and they've enjoyed their cake, and I have my partner here with me and they're happy and I feel good because I've done something for my family. You can't say that in a word. That
Right.
warmth, that little tiny warmth under your skin that you feel, that just bursts and radiates out of you. You can't, with simple language, describe the connection of a first kiss on a date, because that could feel a million different ways for a million different people. But what you can do is you can pour all of those emotions, all of those sensations, all of that tactile reality that's internalized into an external voice on canvas, on paper, through colors and hues and radiance and vibrance, through shape and line and tone, through swipes and gushes of color, and just this meatiness, this wonder. Like this piece behind me here, actually, which was done on one of my live streams. You could look at this and you could see anything you want. It's
I love
not
it.
going to change the fact that it was created with a feeling, with ideas in your mind. And abstract work does not need to be so concrete that everyone looks at it and sees the same thing. If you look at a Degas or you know a Michelangelo and you see a person, okay, I know this is a person. And maybe you'll see implied form and shape that in their classical period had specific meanings that can still be interpreted to mean very specific things. We're not talking about that academic level. We're not
Mhm.
talking about that over specified or rigid rule set. It doesn't matter if you want to paint a person or if you want to paint fields of color. Abstract expression is about the expression. So 1,000 people are going to look at it. They're going to get 1,000 takes. And, maybe 500 of them think that's a piece of crap. My kid could have done that. And maybe a couple hundred more, they're going to think, wow, that's really pretty. But then there's going to be this small number of people, who are going to look at that and they're going to feel something. It's going to grab, it's going to
Yeah.
tug, it's going to pull.
Yeah.
And maybe out of those 1,000 people, one is going to look at it and it's going to touch them right inside. And even if they don't connect with what you were feeling the moment you made it, they're still going to feel. They're going to feel something deep. And that
Yeah.
one person out of 1,000, that's who you're going to talk to.
Well, and not only that, but what I got from your workshop was we watched this we watched a video which I was not expecting,
I
and
know.
then it was paint the feeling that the video gave to you. And I'm like, what the hell do I do with this? And and so I I kind of followed along, and oh, hey DJ, thanks for coming by.
Great to see
Um
you.
and and so I made this blob, and then we did another blob, and then we sort of said, and it wasn't a blob, it was more along the lines of a style of a brush, and I'd never done that before. And then you
Hmm.
said if we got stuck, maybe just rotate it. And I rotated it, and this blob that I had created became an accidental military sea bag. And then, as it went, the painting for me was more of a journey. And I've looked at it again, and I'm like, wow, I really remember that whole moment. And it was more of a processing. And a couple people I showed, they didn't get it. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I was so grateful for that workshop and for how I felt after that, it was just remarkable. I never thought to watch something and then think about how does that make me feel in a color or in a motion. I can do that with music. Like all day long I can do that with, picking up anything and banging on a pot. Like I can make my feelings known that way, or I can express what I feel like you might be feeling in sound as well. I can empathize in sound, but what you were showing was, I don't know, I was wrapped in this video. And I'm like, show me the damn video again. It was remarkable because I don't want to say what happened in the end, because there was a twist to the workshop and I was like, what happened here? Hey DJ, don't worry about the late notice. This is late notice for the both of us. We just really wanted to get together and express, how grateful we were I wanted to express how grateful I was for the workshop, and I wanted to share that McKenzie has her workshop coming up, and in hopes that other people will join me and anyone else. And for those that don't know, like I do paint, but it's very rigid Native American, contrasting black, and it's very perfectionistic when I'm doing it. So this was out of the box for me. This is wild.
So I wanna say something really quick. So there's a different video for every workshop.
Okay, then I would love to see the other one. I don't know if we could ever do that on a live, because I want you to save that for workshops. It was such a twist.
So
I was like,
here's what my intention is.
wow.
And I
couldn't believe it.
It's a fun concept, and it's something really easy to do to people. I know that sounds awful, but it's really easy to do to people because our perceptions are reliant on some really simple things, and to tweak those things does not take much. To grab someone's perception and then to adjust it, that right there, that's one of my skills that I've developed as a writer and as a filmmaker, where we're supposed to mess with your mind.
Yeah.
And
in a beautiful way, by the way. It wasn't like just some terrifying, thing, or it wasn't a twist in a negative way. It was an unexpected self-investigation of what I was experiencing again, to question internally how I was feeling, and again expressing it in a way I had never even tried before. So I think all of that is in a wrapped up and put a bow on it. That's why the experience was so incredible for me, because it felt like I made a mess, and it felt like I needed to make a mess, if that makes sense. And
you did.
So thank you. It was wonderful.
Well, thank you for being there and trying to create a framework by which to guide people to feeling, and also to open the door to their own feelings. It's not an easy thing to do, because first you have to be able to think, like, how would I open up myself?
Yeah.
And then how do I make it so that people I might not even know, how do I open a door for them? Or how do I get them to open a door for themselves? And art is shapeless. I'm going to go with that. Art is shapeless. And the shapelessness of art is the allowance for anything to happen. And that's really what we need. We need anything to happen. It can't always have rules. And I'm not saying rules are bad, because there's definitely tons of reasons to have rules. When I create a charcoal artwork, there's all sorts of different rules I follow to make it look right. But then I take all my other knowledge that I have, and then I inject it into what I do, so that it doesn't necessarily follow all the rules. Music follows rules, art follows rules, photography follows rules.
Yeah.
Film follows rules, life follows rules. Crossing the road has rules.
Right.
Now and again, you got to throw every single one of those rules out.
I like to do that.
Just bin it.
I made a video and a song called Rule Breakers, and I posted it like a week ago for the Octopus Movement. And it's a non-linear global think tank of people made up of humans like you and me that have a mindset about, syntropic, philanthropical living, challenging our thoughts and motives, allowing for all kinds of ideas and spaces, and saying that there couldn't be one of us right here. We all need a different perspective, and that has been wild. We did a live today, but that whole group of people, and I think there's 1,500 strong now, but the idea of rule breakers, you can do that and not be violent and not break something.
Most certainly.
We can do it in such a chaotic, fun way. During COVID, I planted 22,000 square feet of flowers all over Seattle. And
I believe I've heard this story before, and I think it's awesome.
And you're not supposed to really do that. But, if you had government property and a sprinkler system, Deru was coming at midnight or 5 a.m. and dumping bags.
Keep being a guerrilla gardener. Just do it. It's fine.
I had never grown anything before. Even now, we're outside of the city, and Stace, bless her heart, is showing us how to grow from seeds. So we've been doing that. I bring my studio lights into the house, and we push the seeds out of the ground that way. It's just remarkable. I get inspiration from my music and that from there. And yes, there are rules in music. I actually don't know theory. I do some, but I don't think that way. And when I enter the studio, and if I have projects I'm working on, I'm learning to set space for those. Like you said, I need to actually go 1 hour tomorrow, work on this song, because setting aside the time, will for sure. Let me show that.
It's a long link, but
I'll go ahead and post the link post interview in the comments. And if we have time, I'd love to have you back next week, because I thought the workshop was this weekend. I'm grateful we have an extra week then, or some extra time in between. So maybe we could do something where we take a break, or maybe we start out without saying anything, and maybe I'll create some madness, and then you create some madness.
We can most certainly do that.
And I'll
Just
see
share a little madness.
If you can paint what I'm feeling.
Now,
how fun would that be?
That's a really interesting idea. I like it. We can definitely work with that.
And if you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter, because it's art and it's perspective. And again, it's only your perspective of how I'm feeling. So there's no way to be correct.
There's never.
I love that.
Never a right answer. Absolutely never. Unless someone's asking you, is this a circle and it's a square, and then you say it's a circle, then maybe that's not the right answer. Just maybe. That's a possibility. But sometimes that square is actually a circle. And we'll just go with it.
We'll let it be, right?
exactly.
Sometimes 1 times 1 is 3, you know? Who knows? It
That
depends
was
what galaxy you're in.
that was wonderfully euphonic.
I think that we don't know what we're doing here, and neither does anybody else, and that's great. And so
Nobody necessarily has to know what they're doing.
I'm allowing that to be my truth, and that doesn't have to be yours if you're listening. But I'm learning to not allow the stress of other people's concepts of ideas of me or their concepts of self, their self. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to work in empathy, and I fail at that. And I have to ask for forgiveness when I'm still an asshole, but I'm working towards it. And I need more conversations with people like you that help me push the envelope to be, that truer person I want to be. Whether you want to say authentic,
Li-
I'm good at poking,
living
or it's important, and so I'm changing because of the creativity, and I'm inviting people along, and you're doing the same, and so let's just keep pushing the envelope, stretching our creativity, stretching our ideas, and saying, I'm often wrong, often. I love to start an argument with the
yeah,
concept of
you
I've
know,
learned to say that even with my kids is listen, I'm often wrong, but I'm right now. That's kind of how I'm learning to get over myself, but it's the truth. I am often wrong, and it's usually in my approach because I need to listen first. Twice as hard as I can talk, and it's really hard for me. And these conversations allow me to think about space and not just giving space, but there is space and how wonderful and beautiful that is, and what can be in that space. You know, um, I love it.
we definitely have to give space for a lot of things, and it's difficult, but make sure you're giving space for yourself.
Absolutely.
Give space for yourself. Give space for your intentions. Give space for your family. Give space for your loved ones. Give space for mistakes.
Yeah.
Many mistakes.
True.
They're not bad. It's just learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. Give space for mistakes. Give space for mistakes.
It's simple.
Yeah,
And it's the
that's
one thing that we're told to don't do. No, do that. Do it.
in our culture. Reason I said it twice like that is when you say things twice, it's with very, very much intentionality, and so I'm loving the idea of doing that because repeating it out loud sets it in my brain a little deeper, and that's beautiful. So thank you for that. And the great thing is we just recorded you saying that, and that's a wonderful thing that we can just probably take a sound bite and just play that in perpetuity. I love that. This is
That's a
wonderful
really good one.
conversation. You're an inspiring person.
Thank
You
you very much.
you know I've watched how just the involvement in your art, and and 100% I don't get it half the time, but you know what, if I'm in here scratching records, you're going to be like, what the hell are you doing over and over again? You sound like a maniac. In the moment, I just didn't get where you were at, but you're not going to get where I'm at. But you know what? It's expression. We're having fun. Or it's like watching the film and I'm doing something. I'm getting the evil out, like I say, when I grab my electric guitar and just crank it in here, or I make some just, grimy hip hop beat and I just stand between my studio monitors when I'm stressed out, and it just is wah, wah, that's how I get down, and that's how I
I
get
like
back
that.
to zero. And, but from the outside, my neighbors think I'm crazy, and I love that because I'm in the Golden Girls neighborhood sort of thing. And if I fit in, I probably was doing it wrong because my old self probably would fit in, you know. I'd have a flag on my porch and I'd keep my lawn right. No, I like what people call weeds growing because those things grow flowers. And so I quit pulling them. And people don't like that around here
The
because I live on a
weeds
golf course.
are beautiful. That's just bottom line. Weeds are
Amen.
beautiful. If you look at like dandelions or what are those little yellow ones? I can't think right. Those are
Yeah.
beautiful, and they're
Yeah.
weeds. And it's like, oh, yuck, it's a weed. No, it's a plant, and it's amazing.
I've
It's
been in my culture classes, Monday we've been learning about, native medicine and that, and dandelions have come up. I know that people use the tops of them, but we were talking about the leaves and
oh, and the root.
yeah, in the root, yeah, all that
Yeah.
stuff. And it's amazing, again, what we throw away and what we deem garbage around our life as a culture. It's just an idea, and we can all change that idea. I could have a wild
Certainly.
yard full of things that are beautiful, and allow nature to take over. Like that just would make me get all excited. But again, it took me a while to get to the point where I had my rigidity and perfectionistic thinking, my militant ideas had to go away, and creativity is what softened the corners of my rigid self until I wasn't a square anymore. I was more rounded and I could kind of roll around, and fall into the beauty that is around me, listen to the birds, and fall in love with listening to the birds instead of finding a distraction again, which is what we've learned to do when we're done with the day is find a distraction. But instead I'm
There's
trying
so
and I'm
many of them
learning to
there too.
find beauty. There are, the encouragement is to go outside and find the distraction that's life-giving, not, and I'm not saying watching the show is dumb or is a waste of space.
I certainly
But
hope not. I spend a lot of time making films.
exactly. But what we're saying is like, even if we made the best films, is please stop watching them at some point and make your own. Make your own
Yeah,
art. Don't
get
spend
up.
12 hours doing it, right? And so that's my hope. That's what I want to leave. And I have seen my children start to pick up on that, and I'm hoping that that rigidity is undone by the time they're my age, and I think it will be, because I see them free
Hmm.
thinking. I see them living their own. What I don't see is creative expression is in the depths that I would love to see, because that's, I know that what happens on the other side. You start changing your ideas, and then the creativity happens, and when that happens, your soul changes. The life around you is different because what you look at differently becomes different. Correct? Like
I like
when
that. Yes.
I mean,
You know,
that's
it's
sort of a
just
twisted Wayne Dyer quote. Which is a twisted oh what oh man, not Taoism. It's an ancient quote that he kind of borrowed, but
mhm.
what you look at, what you choose to look at, changes. Or now I'm butchering the hell out of it, but
That's okay. No one's gonna know.
what what I
Just
mean
you.
what I mean is when we're looking in the negative, always things are going to feel and compound, and we can also change our perspective and reframe those ideas. And I had to, again, pushing myself to unblock myself is to, if I can't make music, I literally walk outside and listen to the birds. I do that a lot. And if I don't feel like it, I literally just grab a guitar and I just hold it until I feel like playing it, until I feel the inspiration, because I need to be unblocked and I don't know how to get there. And it's like once I kind of push, I'll listen to the birds, and then I feel like crap today. I found out I found out I have to get another surgery, and so that kind
Oh,
of, that
I'm
can
sorry to
get.
hear that.
I'm grateful to be getting it done and to be outside of it, though, to have some
Yes.
knowledge of what's going on in my neck. But I go outside, I might sit like this, but what eventually happens is the birds melt off the day, and this ends up in my lap, and then fuck it, and I start playing. And I'll get into it at some level, even if it's not good, even if I don't want to. Sometimes I have a church organ, like one of those like big organs,
I
and I just
already love it. I
and
just
I
want to
just
hear about it.
I just mash on it. It doesn't matter. I try to make myself laugh by putting on the bossa nova beat, that boom tick boom boom tick. It's just terrible. And
Let
just have
let me
life.
give you something right now. So on a number of my streams, I have put out like exercises or things or practices that you can do to help your creativity. And this is one for you.
Okay.
Or anyone who's listening right now who might be able to apply this to the way you create. But you're talking right now about music. So, let's jump to a moment of thinking about early punk rock. And I'm talking early punk rock. I'm talking like The Clash. I'm talking like 10,000 Foot Brace. I'm talking like that
Black Flag.
gonna get good with it. All right. I want to talk like
Dead Kennedys.
1970s, 1980s punk. One of the things that they would put into a lot of their albums were like 60-second songs. 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Now let me modernize that for you, because we're in the age of Instagram Reels and TikTok and stories. Create 5 30-second songs every day for the next 5 days. Play your heart out for 30 seconds. Record it. Save it. And that right there is going to be your basic exercise. But here's the catch. The moment you get yourself plugged in, set up, whatever instrument you're going to use, the moment you hit record, there's no retake, there's no do-over, and there's no stop. Play your heart out with whatever you're using for 30 seconds. In whatever way that is for you.
And I can't like layer it or anything. No drums.
I'm not going to say that, but
Okay.
whatever you do in that 30 seconds, that's your raw right there.
All right. I like it.
And every day for 5 days. It doesn't matter if you sit outside with an acoustic and you just turn on the camera and you bang something out. Or if you sit in your studio and you grind on your organ, or you get into the electric drums. I don't make that choice. You make that choice. Sit down with an instrument, hit record. 30 seconds of pure you.
All right. I love it. I'm going to do that. That sounds so fun. And I'm not doing that right now.
Yep.
I don't make the time always, but I will. Thank you for that challenge. I love the concept. I'm a huge punk rock fan. When I was younger, I mostly only listened to rap and hip hop. And Public Enemy was a big part of that. And so Public Enemy was like the one rap group that was really tied into punk rock. And punk rock, I can't remember which group was at one of their shows, and I caught one of those live albums. I heard it, and I was like, what is that? And so that tattoo on my arm, that black flag, that's a punk rock band. Henry Rollins was their final singer. They changed a bunch during the time. But, the punk rock stuff, I've been going back. I'm a huge Dead Kennedys fan,
It's a great choice.
Government Flu, and like, there's a bunch of songs like that that are minute 30, just like you said,
Exactly.
they're very short. And I'm looking now, I used to just listen and be drunk and or stoned and just like, yeah, this is wicked, right? I always loved what they were saying, but it was always just and just like we would just be skating hard. And I was sort of hanging out with this sort of a punk rock gang member drug crew. It was weird. So I got really into a lot of stuff. Not well, yeah, I guess into a lot of stuff. But the punk rock in the time, they were doing that in the basement, and I was like, you guys sound like shit. And they were like, yeah, but this is me, this is fun, and we're just shredding. And
Exactly.
like, that was so cool. And from then on, right after that, I got an electric guitar, got really into Jimi Hendrix, and I had a couple bands I played in, and we weren't great, but we had fun and we played shows, and I can't wait to be healthy again, to go out and do art with other people. Wouldn't it be wonderful to create live randomness in music, and
That would
next to
be
someone like you with an assortment of maybe your video, like, you don't know what the tools are, we just park them on stage. I and just like, all right,
that,
what am I
that would
feeling
be
right now, and I
an
just start.
awesome live show.
Ah, and maybe there's a few of us, and those 30-second sound bites, we go back and we replay, because yeah, I mean, I play harmonicas and piano, and I'm looking around at all of these instruments. This is a sampler. I don't know if you ever seen those, but I sample vinyl, and I scratch records, and I do all kinds of stuff, and it's
So
just wild.
I just want to share this with you right now because I'm pretty sure you'll love it. When I make music for my films and videos, some of it I will actually get music, but a lot of it um, I actually use Fruity Loop Studio,
Nice.
and it's all sampled.
Yeah.
And I just put it together, and I tweak this, tweak that, create a sound here, use this. There's this great, really fun tool called the Toxic Biohazard, which
Hmm.
is like my favorite thing in Fruity Loop Studio
It's a
because,
plug-in.
yeah, and more or less it creates electronic distortion sounds. Like if you had real speakers, if you had um, real pickups on guitars and things,
Oh, cool.
and you just stick this thing in here, the Toxic Biohazard, and you play with everything, and it looks like a it looks like an 8-channel board with
Okay.
all your different knobs and everything, and in the virtual screen, so you can play with all the different knobs, and then you hit this little button and you hear what it sounds like, and it's like, all right, that's what I want. That's what I want. And then stick this one here and this one here, and I'm gonna need another one. I'm gonna need another one. I'm gonna need another.
I love that.
And have I don't know if you've seen my short film Catalyst, but
I'm not sure. I wouldn't know the name probably, but
that's
I would
fine.
remember seeing it. What is it?
Catalyst, and that one's the one that won all the awards last year. It's very short. It's considered a micro short, but the entire auditory everything was built within Fruity Loop Studio. The
Oh,
entire
cool.
experience, as far as the sounds go, and
I love that. I use
it's
this right here. This is a Launchpad X that you
mhm.
could use with Fruity Loops as well to launch all your things. And I run that off my iPad up here. That's plugged into the studio monitors. So when you logged in, that's what you were hearing. And a lot of the stuff I do for shows, like, I'll whip out a beat or whatever, do with the same thing, and like, some people don't think it's music, but again, who cares? Um, I take those samples and I make them in an order that feels like how I feel, and that's art. So
It
whatever,
is.
it's fun, I enjoy it, and then once I do that, I can put those things into my MPC, and then I do all kinds of additional sampling, and I put live instruments over it. And so, those little tools, are a wonderful thing, much better than just sitting around playing a game, right? I found this on a accident, and then I ended up able to, you know, just make music on the fly in the car or just anywhere,
That's awesome.
and it's been really fun, So
You have to absolutely have to have fun.
definitely.
I am going to let you know, this has been so much fun talking with you. It's been great to get on here, and we definitely need to get on again.
Absolutely.
That's 100%. And if you don't mind me shilling myself one more time,
Yes.
because I do have two things. Because if someone was to visit my website, in the digital gallery, I now have art prints, which they're it's a growing list. There's now 8 art prints, and those are going to get more. I wanted to increase the availability of fine art for people. So why not make prints available, right? If you see one of my
Yeah.
paintings or one of my charcoal works and you would like one, I'm rolling out all of the art prints. So it's all done on fine art paper, all ready to frame, and you can have a piece of fine art in your home without necessarily having to get an original. And that's just one of those beautiful things, to allow more people to be able to access art.
So let's wrap up to tonight, and how about we think about next time bringing it on, and we'll take a little tour of the website live. So maybe we
Oh,
can
definitely.
discuss some of those things, and I'd love to know more, and you can tell the audience, um, maybe how you were feeling, or, sometimes you don't want you want people to interpret things their own way, but it's also fun to journey into, even the website you created, right? You decided where things are going to go,
Yes,
and
and it
so
is
that's wonderful.
a perpetual work in progress, right?
As are we. So
Most
let
certainly.
so I want to say a big Gala Kasla thank you, and thanks everyone who joined or is listening on the replay. And we had some brain fog, we had some fun, we had some art talk, and most
A
of
couple of
all,
soapboxes.
we had some soapboxes, and but make your own mind up and leave room for others. Love yourself and love your neighbor, please, and
Breach your walls.
breach your walls. All right, thank you everyone, have a wonderful
All
evening.
right. Thank you for having me here.
Thanks,
Bye.
Mackenzie.